All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Wealth Principles for Small Business Owners event. My name is Bill Soroka. I'm the founder of NotaryCoach.com and author of the Amazon best-selling book, Sign and Thrive, How to Make Six Figures as a Mobile Notary and Loan Signing Agent, and host of the new podcast, The Side Hustle Lounge. I'm so excited to be here today talking about topic that I don't think gets talked about enough in the gig economy, in the side hustle business, and in the notary business as well. And that is building wealth, managing money, wealth, making it, keeping it, investing it for everything that we want to enjoy in life, plus the legacy behind. So I was so honored that when Jennifer Neitzel, hold on, let me mute everybody again. I was so honored when Jennifer came to me with her friend, Cory Proctor, with this event. I think this is the kind of information that we need to talk about. So one thing, as we're going through everything, I know money brings up different feelings for people. We've got lots of baggage from when we were younger. We've got more whenever we've had it, lost it, made it, didn't have it, continue to have it, have too much, have too little when we're adults. So one of my favorite quotes from Henry David Thoreau is that wealth is the ability to fully experience life. Keep that in mind as we go through and hear these great tips from Cory. Jennifer, founder of Signing Agent Marketing, one of my favorite notaries in the country.
Yay!
Welcome and thank you for bringing this. How's it going?
What a great intro. Thank you so much, Bill. I might put that on my testimonial page on the website. I am Jennifer Neitzel. I am the founder of Signing Agent Marketing, or SAM for short. And I have had the pleasure of working with Bill on many projects. This one is very important and really fits in with the theme that he's had for the last several months of talking about managing money, managing wealth. And as he said, you know, wealth means different things to different people. And we've all had different experiences with it. And I loved your quote, Bill. I think that's great. It is about experiencing a better life. And that is why so many of us are in the business of passing our information along to you to help you guys out. And this is one of those moments. If you're a member of SAM, thank you so much for being here. And everybody in Bill's Sign and Thrive community, thank you guys so much for hopping on. I'm excited and thrilled to introduce you guys to my friend Cory Proctor. And he is an ex-NFL linebacker who played for the Cowboys. Go Cowboys. He's played for the Miami Dolphins and the Detroit Lions. He is an amazing family man. He has two adorable children, a lovely wife, and he has been through some pretty amazing experiences that he's going to share with you today, from the highest of highs to the lowest of lows. And if that sounds familiar, that's exactly why he's on this call, because even people who achieve what some may consider celebrity status go through the same trials and tribulations that we all do when it comes to creating wealth, running a small business, and working in this gig economy. I have to say, if you are a member of SAM, we talk an awful lot about networking. And that is exactly how I met Cory Proctor. I had invited a friend to come to a networking event with me to promote her business. She said, "Can I bring this guy I met I've just partnered with as my financial planner, and he needs to get out and do some networking. He wants to go." And I was like, absolutely. We had a great time. We met a lot of great people. And this is the kind of connection and relationship building that happens when you do get out there and network your small business. So I couldn't let that point go by, because
I'm so glad you mentioned that. That's huge.
All about the networking.
Yeah.
The reason I chose Cory to be here today, not aside from his story, aside from all of those things, he is an honest, truthful, salt of the earth person. And if I'm willing to work with them, I want to share that with you guys, because that's the whole premise of SAM, was me sharing the things that I've learned along the way. And so, Cory, thank you very much for being here today. Welcome. And we just found out a little bit of information about you that I want you to start with, that even Bill and I didn't know. So that
Wow.
relates to our community of notaries public, wedding officiants, inspectors, side hustle gig people. Go ahead and tell us what you have in common with all of us.
Sure. Yeah, I'm also a notary and a wedding officiant, because I heard you guys had some on here.
Yeah, you do.
Blew my mind. This is such a perfect fit. I love it.
I actually, when I got when I became a notary, it was funny because I was telling my wife, I go, listen, this is an exclusive club. They don't invite anybody outside of the notary business to the Christmas party. So just when I get the invite, I want to let you know, I'm gonna have to go alone to that thing. And so I was just kind of cracking up. But yeah, no, I do that as a service for my business. And then the wedding officiant piece, I'm actually officiating a wedding this weekend, which is wild for a military buddy of mine. And have done another one I've only done a handful of weddings, but another one for a client of mine, and then a former Cowboys fan, a young couple. She just wanted to do something special for her husband, and had me. And so it's been some pretty crazy stuff. I'm actually officiating the wedding for my one of my nieces this year here in July, I think it is. And so back up in Washington State. So it's pretty crazy, but we got some things in common. So kind of cool.
Definitely.
Well, hey, I appreciate you guys having on. I got on with Jennifer and Bill beforehand, and just try to get some background with you guys and to see, what would fit to talk about. And so I guess kind of give you guys just a little agenda or what to expect is what we kind of came to is I would share my story, my background, and then really kind of give 3 keys to win that I've taken on in my life, and I've seen work in a lot of other people's lives financially, that are very, very overarching, but are huge wealth builders, and share a piece of those, and then we'll have some Q&A after that. But if you guys are okay with that, I'll go ahead and start. Give me a nod if you're all right, if you're listening, and say yes. I'm going to show you this. This is my favorite part first. I love showing pictures of my family. If you guys, we'll share this. So you guys see each other's faces here. This is the advanced share right here. Can you guys see that all right? Give me a yes if you're good. Okay.
Sure can. Yeah. Love that camel.
Come on, baby. So that actually, the camel is a piece of my speaking. So a lot of things have happened in my life, I'm sure just like you guys, but where I'm at today, I live in Trophy Club, Texas. The top left, Pro Capital Wealth Management, that's my company. So I'll do financial services, where I'll cover a lot of retirement and brokerage service there, into a lot of retirement planning. So a lot of your IRAs, SEP IRAs, Roth IRAs, insurance pieces, life insurance, long-term care, disability, and some alternative investments. So all public securities, meaning you can sign into your account and see it all the time. But I had an awesome advisor when I was playing ball. Conflict of interest. She ended up turning into my mother-in-law later. And so I always laugh, right? Because that would change the dynamic of the relationship. And she liked me a whole lot better just as a son-in-law, or just as a client and not a son-in-law. But she did a really great job for me. And so that kind of gave me a good segue into the business. And so I started up Pro Capital, and that's my DBA, my LLC. And then I broker dealer out of Woodbury in Minnesota, which only deals with independent advisors. So I like that because I'm not held to any specific product or person. I'm not beat over the head with, what to sell for financial products. So that was a big deal. But the more important parts, a lot of you guys, you might have heard my name. Very little of you. The most likely guy to hear my name was probably the guy in the Whataburger line, to be honest, because I like Whataburger, and I want to triple Whataburger with cheese. And it's insane that they charge you for every single slice of cheese. That's just, as a guy who is a little more frugal, I don't want to see every single slice charged. Okay.
Who doesn't like Whataburger? Come on.
I know.
And cheese, but I don't need a line item on my cheese for sure.
Just give me an overall. Just put it on another feed. Bottom right, picture. I was an offensive lineman for the Cowboys. I was swing guard and center most of my career. I played 6 years in the NFL. Also was in Detroit on the practice squad most of 2005. And that's then the Cowboys picked me up of last 5 games of 2005. And I was here with Bill Parcells and then Wade Phillips in 2006, 7, 8, 9. They cut me in off season of 2010. And I went to Miami a week later and spent the last year of my career. Unfortunately, that's where a lot of athletes go to die. And so that's where I passed away in my former life. Ruptured my patella tendon. That's where my kneecap split in half and I passed out on the field. That was one of the craziest pains I've ever had in my life. And so our head trainer, Kevin O'Neill at the time, actually woke me up, slapped me in the head. And they don't do that anymore because of concussion protocol, right? They don't want to do that. That's a bad thing. You just slap people in the head when they're kind of passed out like that. But he woke me up, and that's when I woke up to my knee turned into a melon, and worst pain ever. And a whole lot of surgeries later, I was on to the next phase of my life, and a pretty crazy thing. But it was an awesome place. What I couldn't see, I don't know if you guys have had this, what I couldn't see at the time was I've always been a really coachable guy, and I kind of let the politics of the league get to me a little bit in the last couple of years. And so I was fighting against my O-line coach at the time, and I was very much trying to take the world on my shoulders, which I still appreciate for a lot of people, because I think we need a lot of activators out there. We need people out there working, because nothing gets done otherwise. When my faith came into it later, Proverbs 3:5 was the first one to hit me in the mouth, was trust in the Lord with all your heart and soul, lean not on your own understanding. And that's exactly what I was trying to do at the time, and not to just flip it into, a religious call, but that hit me in a hard way, because I was trying to excel in a place or work harder in a place that I was already working hard at. And I just needed to be more efficient at it. And I think God was kind of like, I was engaged to my wife, Megan, at the time, who you see here, who is the biggest heart in the world, but she'll still stab you in the jugular if you're out of line too much. But I was engaged to Megan, and I think God was totally like, listen, you're too much about you. I'm going to cut your knee out from under you, because I need you to not be a football player anymore. I need you to be a husband. And so this transition happened in my life, ended up being a pretty awesome place. And so that's where we're coming out of football, but it was still a huge blessing, a big deal. When got married, Megan and I got married, ended up having 2 amazing kids. You see Hank and Grace right here. Hank's 17 months old. This was taken in December. Grace is 6 right now. Grace is crazy. I take her in the weight room in the garage with me to lift weights, because I need her strong enough to rip the junk off of some dude that tries to rub up on it. Okay. That's just, I'm going to be a backup at some point. She is the first line of defense. She's got to be a strong woman to be able to just handle any guy that tries to do anything funny. Okay. But my wife, she's currently trying to find a nursing job right now, and it actually has a legal background too. So we've been praying for some clarity and some direction there. But I'm in no rush for her to get out of the house, because I love having mama home, and that's one of the best things in the world. And we're lucky enough to be doing that. But as a big thing that's come from a big shift in my life for my faith, the top right, the picture with the camel, his name is Cujo. That is actually in Jerusalem. So a big kind of part of the side gig deal is I do a lot of speaking engagements, and part of it from my background, that's a great deal. But to be honest, I got opportunities in that before, but it wasn't until I locked in with my faith that I actually, all of a sudden, I got this insatiable desire to just eat. And that's where I became a crazy consumer, and just started. I mean, it was every book, it was every message, it was every podcast, TEDx talk, anything that I could get my hands on. And then when I would eat all of this information, and we would go have coffee, all of a sudden you'd be the poor sap that would just get it all poured out onto. And so what was neat about that is it made me attractive to people. And to me, it's not a me thing, it's a God thing, but it made me attractive to people where all of a sudden I had crazy testimony, awesome revelation in my own life, and crazy big explosive things were happening. And so I started getting asked a whole lot more to share on stages. And my largest crowd was 8,000 men in Springfield, Missouri, Stronger Men's Conference. And then, but I do a whole lot around here locally on purpose because I want to pour into my community where my family's growing up and be intentional about that. And so this is a big deal, but I wanted to give you a snapshot of where I am currently. So this is where we're at, sitting in Texas and DFW. I love it. And I'll share a little bit, and I got some other slides later that I'll show you, but for some examples. But I want to give you a little bit of my story coming up because money, similar to everybody else, and I'm sure you guys are sitting here probably thinking like, what could an NFL player, what could an athlete potentially share with me about money, right? You had your life paved. You were given a high salary. You got all this great stuff for playing a game. And to be honest, it's a valid question. But I'll sit here and that's why I want to share my story, because I want you to understand like where I come from, and some overarching lessons or points that I want to share with you. They're not garbage, and they're not coming from a pre-plastered presentation that somebody gave me to give you, right? I want to give you a piece of me that was real. And so coming up, I was middle of three boys. I would say, what's the best part of the Oreo? It's the cream, baby. Come on. And so I was growing up, I was middle of three boys, but my folks split and divorced when I was about 8 or 9 years old. And we moved around a ton after that, 6 months with mom, 6 months with dad. They both remarried. And it was a 4-year period. I ended up going to 7 different schools right after that. And so I was constant. I'd move, make a friend, and we move again. Make a friend, and we move again. Make a friend, and move again. So it was kind of a tough place. I ended up being that chubby kid, so I dove deep into the bag of Doritos in a big way, and so that ended up being my place. But coming up, and if any of you guys have been through divorce, it's a tough place relationally. It's no fun to go through it with your kids. But financially, it can wreck you too in a big way. And that's a tough thing to do, is to sit here and split up your assets or have to go through that. And it's not fun at all. And so watching my folks have to go through that, my dad always said, I never had any problem making money. It was holding on to it. But watching them have to walk through that, I didn't realize it at the time, but I'm exhibiting firsthand what's happening in this. And it was a tough thing. And so, and then there was 2 other moments that really kind of were big to me. And then later on, what ended up happening was a big why my faith is so huge in my life was, Jennifer and Bill attached my testimonial video onto the email invite. And so some of you guys might have gotten to see that. So thanks for attaching that. That was something that my church did. And my younger brother, Casey, and his wife lost their son to cancer right before his 2nd birthday. And his name was Evan. I called him Big E. And so that was a huge catalyst to bring us to faith in a big way. But I also got to see how those medical bills stacked up in a monstrous way. And just hearing some of him share just what small line items would cost on that, or cost the insurance, or what the hospital was charging. I'm sure some of you guys have been through that. It blows you away in a big way. And so walking through that was a painful place, but totally redeemed in an awesome way. They have 2 awesome tornadoes of twin girls right now, and so they're in an amazing place. And so it was a total redemption story also. But walking through that, and then the third piece of my story that was really the pro athlete piece, right? How many of you guys know, or how many of you hear about pro athletes going broke all the time? Well, you hear about it constantly. One, because our media loves negative news and they just want to pump us full of that. But you hear about that a ton, and a high percentage of those guys going broke, and there's reason for that. It's not necessarily an athlete thing. It's an America thing. It's a society thing. It's the same reason you see a lotto winner going broke. Somebody who wins the lottery literally comes into millions of dollars, and then years later or sometime later, they end up broke and in the exact same place where they were in the first place. And so this isn't an athlete thing, it's a society thing. And it was funny. So coming from growing up with my parents, seeing my brother walk through this stuff, and then seeing what has gone on with athletes, I became a real frugal guy initially. And I didn't spend anything at first. And I was like, man, I just hoarded all this money as much as I could, just watch it stack up in my bank account. And so I didn't want that. I just had made a choice in my life. Like, I did not want the negative things in my life or the negative experience that I'd seen or lived through. I did not want to have that into mine. I didn't want to have money be a limiting factor to my choices. I didn't want to have money be a point of concern or a heavy burden on my marriage. I didn't want it to limit our choices for our kids, right? And I certainly didn't want to get this awesome income from football and just go blow it like I've seen a lot of other guys do. Frankly, close friends do also. And so I just kind of had this piece in me where I was like, I didn't want to do that. I wanted something else. And lucky for me, and this is where I'm sure you guys are the same way, I wanted to find somebody who's winning. And so I ended up getting hooked up with a guy, Marco Rivera, on the football team with the Cowboys. And he was the first one. He's kind of a mentor to me. And he was the first one to say, what are you doing with your money? And I'm like, man, I'm watching this baby stack up at the bank. I'm good. And it was safe to me. And so he was the first person to say, you need to put it to work. I'm going to introduce you to my advisor. And the rest was history right there. So I can tell you 10 years. November was my 10-year anniversary from my knee exploding in Miami, dying with so many other players. But my 10 years removed from the league, I'm in a whole lot better place financially today than I ever was playing professional football. And it's because of these keys to winning I want to share with you. But that's the problem that you kind of see overarching. It's not that we're making money. It's not how much money we're making. It's what behaviors are going into that. And I think so many people, some of you guys I'm sure can relate, when we have this pandemic was a huge, what I'm blanking on right now, not a microphone, but like a glass. What the heck? You see
magnifying glass.
Huge magnifying glass. Thank you. I'm like
bing, bing,
struggling
bing, bing,
on
bing.
that one. This pandemic is a huge magnifying glass on our financial problems, right? And government is not at all an example of proper stewards of our money. Okay, with the deficit that we deal with right now, they are the kings of debt, and every one of them in the past complete with this. And so they're a horrible example for us to follow. So we got to figure this out on our own. But the issue is, when we have the reigning majority of our people in America that are living paycheck to paycheck, they don't have $400 in the bank for an emergency. When something goes wrong, they get knocked off the pedestal in a big way. And all of a sudden we're left scrambling, now relying on a stimulus check or relying on some other bailout or some other place to go. When frankly, all of a sudden we're giving up control to everybody else. And that's a tough place to be. And what I want out of this is I want to give you these points where you guys give you guys a little bit of juice to hopefully make some choices for yourself. I'm sure a lot of you guys are heading that direction already or already there, but get some juice to stay in the direction or at least get started and take control of your own finances and really want to dive deep into those. Because the biggest problem I see when I deal with clients is not that they have a problem making money. They have no idea what it's doing. And so I'll kind of come into this. So my 3 keys to win. Number 1 is my cash flow is king. If you guys are note takers, you can write some of these down. My first point on 3 points to win for your wealth principles right now is cash flow is king. And what I mean, not cash is king, right? Like the Green, the Benjamins. I don't want any of that. Cash flow is king. That means you guys are making money, but so many people don't understand the business of their own life, let alone their own business. That money's coming in. They're working hard for that income, but it's flowing right back out in other places. And and that's the tough thing about it is when I deal with couples or business owners or anything, and we really start diving down into their expenses, they can't, a lot of times can't share, what their full expenses are, how much per month they're sharing, or how much per month they're spending even in their personal life. When I ask them, like, all right, what are your monthly expenses right now? Total, what are your monthly or yearly expenses right now? 90+% of the time, a lot of people will be like, I'm not sure. They have no clue what's going on. And so the tough thing that shows is, okay, if I don't know what's happening in the behavior of my own money, there's no way I can get a hold of it to control it. And so that's why I say cash flow is king. And so knowing, when you know what's happening in your money, it allows you to start assigning it. One of my favorite things I love sharing with people, I love assigning money to different places. All right, whether that's working with clients or my own. I love taking money, income from my own, and I can assign it every month to myself, right, to my investment accounts, to whatever, to have fun, to having a vacation, however I've signed it out in my life, right? You can call it budget if you want to call it that, but I've assigned it in my life. And when I get that, I know exactly what's going on. I'm swimming in my accounts. And so one practical way I do that with a lot of my people is the first of every month. Some of you guys might have your own practices, but the first of every month is my money day. Every first of every single month, I put it on my calendar. So I have it set in stone as if it was a meeting, is my money day. And so what I do is I use two things. I use self-employed QuickBooks and Excel. I know you guys can use Notary Gadget and Notary Assist, right? Those are some good tools to use, and you can combine it however you want to combine it. But basically, on the first of every month, what I do is I look back at the previous month, and I want to add up everything that I brought in and everything that I spent. And that's household expenses, that's fun, that's eating out, that's everything that's going on in my life, business and personal, because a lot of us are solo entrepreneurs, so it all melds together, right? We'll flow through profits right to our personal income statement. And so meld those together. What am I spending? What am I making? And if I'm in the positive, that's a good thing, right? I have discretionary money, and now I can start assigning that money, and that's a good deal. If I'm negative, we got to find a way to get out of that negative. And that's the tough thing, is a lot of people don't realize they're negative in that monthly cash flow. And because they're negative, we start falling into debt. And that's why with the 80-some-odd% of businesses fail within the first 4 years. And the number one reason that they fail is because they're not profitable, and they usually thought they were. And so if they're not profitable, that means they're not holding, and they thought they were profitable when they were not. That means they're not involved in their cash flow every single month. And if you want to do it weekly or bi-weekly, you can do that too. But I would encourage you guys on the first of every month, put it on your calendar. That's what I still do. And I'm total, I don't make every decision right, but I'm a total master of my finances because I'm involved in my money purely. And I've won a whole lot more than I've ever lost because I'm purely involved in it. And this is what I love. Like, you guys are like everybody else. Your nose are to the grindstone, trying to make money, trying to support yourself, trying to support your families. But if we don't set it aside, specific time for you guys to understand your accounts and how much is going out. I sign into my bank account, my credit cards, everything that I have, I sign in to see what's going out, what's coming in. And if you don't know, you're going to fall susceptible to bad times. And if we're not prepared for bad times take over us, and we don't want that. And so that's a huge thing. Cash flow is king. And I'll give you, for you guys that are married, here's a little tip that I use. It's been really good with Megan. Is this is how it usually starts. The bad way that starts is you start signing in, you're looking at all your accounts on the screen, and you're like, dang, I didn't realize I was spending this. Why are we spending so much on this? Dang. You start critiquing everything, and all of a sudden you start hollering, babe, no more spending at Starbucks. No more of this. And you start labeling. Well, listen, I'm going to tell you, stop that right now, because that's a real big way to get a fight. Okay. Don't stop demanding stuff. Okay. Here's the best way that I've gotten. So any accounts that are tied to my wife's cards or anything like that, I'll print them all out, and I'll come up to her and say, hey, just take a look at these. I want you to verify these purchases to make sure they're correct. Why? It's twofold. One, I don't want any phantom charges going on. I don't want any like side charges from the gym or anything else that I don't know I'm paying. I want to know everything else, everything that I'm paying. And then two, what it does, it makes her aware of what she's spending. And that's all I want her to be is aware of what's going on in our accounts. And so if she's aware of her spending, and I'm aware of my spending, you guys are aware, if I'm going out to eat, maybe I don't order, look, I like to eat. Maybe I don't want to order a third appetizer or another meal or something like that. I don't need it necessarily, not just for my weight, but for my bank account too. But I don't have to do that, but it makes her aware just of what's going on. And so I can share her, hey, we spent X dollars this month. The first time I ever shared that with her, she goes, no, we're not. And we didn't spend that. And I go, yeah, it's right here on my Excel sheet. And I can be a whole lot more, it's a lot easier transition in that conversation where I just let it sit on her and it's not a parade, right? And so I want to share that with you because it's a good practical way to come into that conversation if you're kind of hesitant to come into it. I know it's a tough place for a lot of marriages, but cash flow is king. If you guys can get a hold of it, I have an Excel sheet. If you guys want an example of one, I can show you that. It's really good and I like it. You can go make it your own or just find a way to do it somehow. Master that on the first of every month, money day, make it your own. Cash flow is king. Number two, where are we at? 4 o'clock. I'm going to finish this up, try to get this done quick because I know we're going to get some Q&A going. Number two is know your tools for the job. You guys know I'm not going to a job without my stamp. I'm not going without my signature book. I'm not going, I'm not just walking out without the car. I got to have things prepared ahead of time for when problems arise. And so same thing, if I got something, if I screws loose in the house, I got screwdrivers in my toolbox to go do it. So the same thing financially, I got to know what tools are available to me. Well, there's a lot of garbage out there, justifiably so. There's been a lot of people. That's why the SEC has a ton of red tape on the financial industry because there's a lot of garbage out there. And so, but know some tools. But I want to list a few basic ones out for you guys that you need to be looking at. Number one is emergency fund. You guys should have 3 to 6 months worth of cash at all times in your savings account, your bank account. That is something that if I have a problem today, a health emergency, the car breaks down and I need money to pay for this right now, I can get the money accessible out of my debit card or something else. I can get it right now. And I don't have to be forced to go put on a credit card if I don't want to. Maybe you can handle that, that's okay. But it's money that's accessible immediately without having to liquidate any investment funds or try to maybe even a investment property if you guys have something like that. But I need something now that I got access to. And it's not investment money, this is your own personal insurance. That's what it is. And I would say 3 to 6 months, if you're a single income family, whether it's just you as a single person or your husband and wife and you have a single income, have it closer to the 6 months range. So if I'm spending $1,000 a month, whatever that looks like for you guys, that's $6,000 in the bank at all times. All right, that's insurance money for you personally for problems. If you're dual income, you got two people in the house that are working or contributing, you can lean a little more towards 3 months. And so I can give myself some cushion because if one drops a job or something like that, I got the other one to support a little bit. Emergency fund, 3 to 6 months cash. Insurances, we got to cover for rainy days, right? You guys know your home, auto, your basics, life insurance, stuff like that. Your retirement accounts, big ones for you guys. This is big for anybody who is an entrepreneur. That a lot of people kind of trip up on is their IRAs. And so there's a lot of tools out there. If you're under the income limit, I always go Roth IRAs to start because I want some tax-free money in my retirement. I don't know about you guys, but I want tax-free growth. So give me some of that all day long. If you can utilize that. Past that, there's the SEP IRA, which is short for Simplified Employee Pension. In a SEP IRA, I can put 25% of my net take home for the year and defer that income into my retirement. So that's 25% net or $57,000 max. And so what's really neat, what's cool about that is, okay, if that fits somebody's portfolio, it allows for a large chunk of money to potentially defer and cut down my tax liability for the year. And so that's a big tool. And it could fit for, it fits for a lot of people, it's utilized a lot. but it's usually for like a single entrepreneur who owns their own business, running their own business, or a husband and wife, and usually not for multiple employees, but that's been a good one to use. And I've actually run into a lot of people who are unsure. Husband and wife I was with the other day, he goes, well, his wife is a doctor, and he goes, well, we're putting money into her SEP. I go, okay, well, I got it. I got their statement, and it was a traditional IRA. It was not a SEP IRA. It was something completely different. And so, so it's easy to mix some of these up, but it should say it right across your statement head if you have one of these. But if not, we could talk about it later on. But SEP IRA is a really great tool to use for a lot of solopreneurs and people who own their own business. So that's good. It might not be it for everybody, but that's one piece. Let's see. Past that, you start getting into some general investing, retail brokerage accounts. There's lots of other stuff to go out there, and then you just start picking stocks and bonds, or depending on the person and their income levels, there could be a myriad of places where we would go. But those are some general places you would go there. You guys can look at. And I just wanted to touch light. And then number 3, that was know your tools for the job. Those are just a few. But then number 3 is implement the behavior. Sounds so simple, but I can't money is a math problem, but I can't fix the math problem unless I fix the behavior problem. And I'll tell you, there's so many people who are like, man, I need more money. If only I could make more income. Yes, I want you to make more income. I want you to go kill it for yourselves and your family. I love it when people win. Because if you win and you're my client, I win a lot of times. But if we don't fix the behavior problem, we can never fix the money problem. Money is just a side effect of who we are. Right? You ever talked about money as a root of all evil, or people change with money? That's not the case. Money is a side effect. Money is an amplifier or a magnifying glass. Thanks, Bill. A magnifying glass of people already. Some of you say, like, man, that guy got real weird. He was weird before he got any money. I promise that. Okay, real weird. And so it's an amplifier purely. That's it. But it's a huge tool nonetheless. But if we can fix behavior problems before, that's why I lead with cash flow is king, and know what tools you have, because now you're doing some study. I'm involved in my life. Now I'm doing some study on what's available to me. And now when I actually decide where I want to go, I'll go. And this is what I love about you guys. Notary's got to go. You guys, your lives are all over the map, right? All of a sudden, I got a new signing coming up every 2 seconds. And so you guys are activators. I got to go get it. So those are the kind of people that you want, who are activators that want to go get it in their own wealth, to go after it. And this is what's kind of funny too, is there's so many people that don't implement the behavior. There's a lot of people who don't, and I can tell you why it's a behavior problem, because just this last year, I talked to an attorney who's making $2 million a year, but he's in debt up to his eyeballs. And I'm talking to him, and I'm like, brother, you're doing awesome. How are you in this much debt? And he goes, well, I'm like, how much you spending? He just ballparked it about $3 million a year. And I'm like, man, are you going to get this under control? And he goes, I'll probably just take this thing and file for bankruptcy. And I'm like, well, we can't work together if you're going to choose that course, because you made agreements with these people that you're going to pay these debts, and I'm not going to tie myself to that kind of place, right? But that's what I say. The reason I share that is because it's a behavior problem, period. And it's at every single income level. And so if you guys, I have people that make $40,000, $50,000 a year, but are insane in their cash flow. And so they have a ton to put in their accounts. And so their accounts have just grown like crazy. And so I'll actually tell you this is a cool stat. There was an actuarial study that was done that showed 79% of wealthy people were wealthy purely because they actually invested. They put into their 401k, they put into their brokerage accounts, their retirement accounts. That was it. They made it a habit monthly to put money away. And just because of that, they're actively putting money away, and it's growing passively, and ends up being a huge deal for building your own net worth, right? And so that was a big deal to them. And I don't know about you guys, but one of my big things is I don't want to just live an awesome life for myself and my family. I want to leave an awesome life for my children and their children. and I want to teach them how to do this. And if I can teach them how to do this and not just be a trust fund baby, how explosive could it be all of a sudden? We talk about Jerry Jones with the Cowboys. I spoke to his grandson, who is being groomed, is going through every section of the Cowboys facility, learning every piece of the facility of the team in order to be groomed to take over the team one day. And I don't know about you, but I want to get to that kind of level where I'm grooming my grandchildren in the same fashion, where you guys respect it, you know how it works, you know how it operates, you love the people that are building this with you, and you end up, because you're building those people, you end up being built in a massive way. And so that's a big deal. So what I want to show you is this. We talked about showing an example, and then I'm going to shut up so we can get some questions. So right here, Bill and Jennifer and I would just say, okay, would an example work for you guys? And so right here, I just wanted to show. So this is, I named this person Notary Machine. I could have just said Joe Schmo, but this is a Notary Machine. I don't know. You guys are going to be all over the map, but we're just assuming a situation here. So this is a 50-year-old single person making $100 a signing, 40 signings a month on average. So that's $4,000 a month minus 800 business expenses. And I'm just saying, just throwing a number out here, but they're spending half of what's left, on their personal expenses. So this could be somebody who's married, so they got another income coming, could be just you personally. And their personal expenses is $1,600 a month. So they got $1,600 in discretionary money. That's what this stands for here, is that discretionary money. All that means is I have $1,600 a month positive cash flow coming in my life. And so what I'm showing here, 1,600 times 12 is $19,200 a year. And what I showed here was 100% of discretionary funds were spent. And so what I tell you, cash flow is king. This is what happens is when I'm not paying attention to my money that doesn't get assigned goes away. And so when it goes away, it gets spent. You guys know how it is. Like, look, I want the new iPhone. I want the ear pods, whatever it is. I've done it before, I promise. But whatever the shiny thing is, I want to go grab it because I want it. And we got some extra cash available. Well, if I'm just spending it, that money does nothing to work for me, right? And so now I got to constantly just keep working to make more money. I am my own asset, and I have nothing else working for me on the side. And so this is what I showed here. Is I showed this 50-year-old working till 67, choosing to retire at 67. They spent all of the $1,600 per month. And what happens? Money runs out in that first year. This is what this graph shows. This person's 50 years old right here, working. This shows the age up to 67, and they can't even last a year because they don't have income to stop working, right? I didn't show any other assets, no cash in the bank, no other retirement accounts, no other investments, whatever. There's nothing else available there. But somebody who, and this is the classic person who is living paycheck to paycheck and doesn't have $400 left in the bank to do a thing. This is what I'm sharing with you because we don't have a grasp on this. And so, okay. So here's the scenario. So we just changed a little bit. So I say, okay, what if I took that same person with the 1,600 and we're just blowing the money and we started paying attention to our money every month? And I say, hey, what if I took that 1,600 and you assigned it? I'm going to tell you what to do now. I'm going to tell my money what to do now and what would happen. And so what I did is I took that same 50-year-old, the same money, and I just changed where that money was going. And I just said, hey, let's assign this. And so what I did is, since he's 50 years old, we can put $7,000 a year into a Roth IRA to grow for our retirement. And I said, okay, let's put $7,000 a year. That's $583 a month, that you see right here, that I'm putting into a Roth IRA because I want any growth on top of that. I want that tax-free income if I can get it, right? I don't pay anything more to Uncle Sam than I have to, ever. And I would imagine everybody else is the same way. Keep more of the pie. And so I maxed that out, and the rest I just put into a retail growth account or a retail investment account, just a general investment account. And so the rest is just over $1,016 a month, and I'm putting it away monthly. And so what you're seeing on here, this is 8% growth. And at the same time, retiring at 67, I put away that $19,200 a year, working this, getting the same income I've ever had, living the same life basically I've had, and I'm just taking that, and I'm not spending the excess, I'm assigning it somewhere else. And you'll see at 67 with that 8% growth, and I'll tell you the S&P 500 has an average of 10.3% growth over the years. It goes up and down, but that's the average flat line in the history of the S&P 500 is 10.3. But at 8% growth, you'll see that money this person ends up saving lasts 27 years, so age 95. That's a big deal. And so if it ends up growing more, it can grow faster. We put away more, that helps us even more, right? The average life expectancy is mid-80s. So you're setting yourself up for a good place. But I wanted to share this as just an example. And I want to share this too. We're going to close it up. That was my last little bit. But I wanted to share this too, so you guys can write down my information. If you guys want to have this, go check out my website. I'm a nerd on my website. I love it. You got a ton of information in there. I love it. But go home with this. Cash flow is king. Know your tools for the job. Implement the behavior. The biggest one I would leave home. Whatever you decide to do, go out at 100 miles an hour. Go beat your head at the door. And I'll tell you what, I was an idiot when I was talking to my advisor when I was playing football. I had no idea what was going on in my life, but I wasn't afraid to ask stupid questions when I felt like an idiot asking the questions. Ask them all day long. I would much rather you guys ask a stupid question and get a piece of gold out of it than never asking it and doing something stupid in the end. And so ask a ton of questions. I want to leave the rest of the time. I'm sorry, I told you guys I could talk forever, but I'm going to pass it over right now. Bill and Jennifer, go.
Thank you so much, Cory. The comments are great. I think, you woke a lot of people up with this talk, and I love all of your points. They make so much sense. I actually have a question before we open it up. And can you tell me a little bit about self-employed 401ks?
Sure. Those are good options too.
What is the difference between that and a SEP?
A SEP, so it depends on the employer match. So if I have a SEP IRA, and that's why I say it depends on if you have employees. So if I own my company, I have employees on a SEP IRA, I have to match what I'm doing in my account that I do for my employees.
Right.
And they're generally a lot cheaper administrative wise. Now it's not always in all cases, but self-employed 401k, I have to get a third party administrator for. And generally that's an extra cost. And so not a bad thing. But if that was the case, you had multiple employees, you could do a simple IRA. Now I'm limited in the amount I can put in there. But if I do a self-employed or 401k, I could have multiple employees, and I'm saying something here, but they can contribute on their own as well. Versus a SEP. If I contribute on my SEP, there's two parts to it, the employee and the employer part. But I can, if I own my own business, meaning I'm the owner, I'm the employer and the employee, I can put into my own account up to that 57,000 or 25% net max. But that means I have to do it for every other employee as well.
Right.
So for a 401k, I don't have to. I can put up to a 19.5 max. And then do any employer match on top of that. So there's some small nuances, but there's some differences for sure. But they're both good tools.
Thank you.
On that same subject, we had a couple of questions. Can somebody have a SEP IRA and a Roth IRA at the same time?
Yes.
Short and sweet. Yes.
Yes, you can.
Love it.
Yeah. Well, because you think in general, I think somebody asked me like, hey, my company offered a match. I know this is not a lot of you guys, but my company offered a match. Should I take it? Yes. Match. It goes in this order: match, tax-free, tax-deferred. And so I want my match because that's 100%. I'm not going to get 100% return on the market day one, right? Typically, but I can get 100% match. It's free money. I'm going to take that. Then in general, I want to get tax-free growth if I can, because I want to cut down anything eating off that money long term. And then tax deferred is a big deal because I don't have taxes taken out along the way in my investment, and it can build a lot faster and grow a lot faster towards retirement. So there you go.
Love that. Do we have any other questions for Cory? Anybody that would like to unmute and ask? That was an awesome presentation. Lots of great comments in the chat window. The question that Carla just asked is, how do we set this kind of stuff up? Like, do we do it ourselves or do we hire somebody?
You can do it yourself. Absolutely. If you don't know what's going on, I would talk to somebody at least, right? And whether that's, and some people don't have enough, they might just be getting started, or they might have some assets to be working with. I'd say if you don't know, give me a shout. I'm happy to help. That's no problem.
We will be sharing Cory's contact information available to everybody on the call, so you guys will be able to reach out to him if you would like. Some more information on how he can help.
Definitely, and I'll include that in the replay email as well. And as we wrap up here, Cory, do you have any recommended resources, whether it's books, online course, a podcast that you like to follow? Anybody who's interested in getting into money and investing, where would you send them?
Depends on the person, right? I mean, if you're starting out, I'd say if you're a debt person, like maybe you have debt you're trying to work out of, I'd start with Dave Ramsey. I like Dave Ramsey. I actually teach a Financial Peace University course or lead a class. I'm going to it tonight. So he is kind of the king of get people out of debt, right? The whole gazelle mentality and get them out. I love that attitude, because I don't want people the bad debt can be a leech on you, and I don't want that to be on your back. And so I'd start there. If you have never heard of that, Financial Peace University, Dave Ramsey, I think .com is a good one for that. He just has some good general knowledge too on his on his podcast. Think and Grow Rich is a great book. It's just mentality. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of different books, ton of different information about there, but I love general mindset type books and kind of soul and self-building books. And so one of my favorite ones was John Eldredge, Wild at Heart. If you're a guy, you need to read that. I've read it 3 times and I'm going to read it again. And if you're a mom of a guy or a boy, you need to read that, or maybe even to understand your husband, because there are some powerful, powerful things in there, and some soul building things that we need. But Think and Grow Rich is awesome. Basically building on the habits of, like, what are you building in your own life to grow your wealth, right? How are you building? Who are you building with? What are you building? Defining those pieces instead of letting the world dictate you, you dictate the world. And those are some great qualities in that book. It's really old, but it's got a lot of good things. So I'd recommend those for sure. I'll do monthly webinars. This Thursday, I'm doing an estate management course. There is 30,000 baby boomers retiring a day, and over 70% of our nation's wealth is held with baby boomers right now. And so estate planning is a big deal, because right now they're talking about lowering the estate tax exemption down to $3.5 million and increasing the tax rate to 45%, as if 40% right now is not insane enough. So you have this older generation that has done a lot of great things with their wealth, and they're about to pass it off to their people. Well, we got to find ways to manage those taxes. So I'm doing that this Thursday. I'm doing a retirement for realtors on Friday for a client of mine and a big group of his. And so I'll do those monthly. So you can see my site with the events on there. Some of you guys might have saw some more of those, but I send out, a lot of you guys that have signed up for this, I pepper with some random pieces of information. So my site has a ton of information on there and resources. So you can go on and see what's going on there and really kind of see where you're at. And that's, there's a net worth generator on the homepage, on the flip screen. You can go in there and see where you stand there. But there's a lot of good tools on there that I would definitely recommend.
Fantastic. Cory, thank you so much for bringing your wisdom, your humor, and your style to our group. We really appreciate it. And Jennifer, thank you for introducing us to Cory and sharing that story of introduction as well.
Absolutely. No, Cory, I'm thrilled that you took the time to meet with everybody today. I'm excited by the amount of people that are on the call, and I know 100% know that everybody learned something, myself included. And you know how, Cory, how much, I mean, I'm in this, I'm always looking at investments and doing this on my own. So your guidance is always very much appreciated. So thank you very much. And we will make sure that everybody has your contact information that was on the call, if they want to get in touch with you.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys.
You're
Guys,
welcome.
honor yourselves for taking some time out of your day on a Tuesday to face your financial situation, learn something new about this. Half the battle is pulling your head out of the sand on a topic that not everybody enjoys talking about. And there is part of creating wealth is, as Cory talked about, is implementing the behavior. Make managing your money a side hustle that you do, because it can ultimately pay off more than any other side hustle that we decide to take on for ourselves. So thank you for being here and being a part of this. Cory, Jen, thanks again.
Thank you, guys.
We'll talk to you guys later.
See you guys.